So like every week, what do I say? I'm like, at least every other week. I'm like, don't send me any tobacco. I have so much tobacco. I'll never be able to smoke it all. Keep your tobacco for yourself. Please don't send me tobacco. Then I get on Martin's live stream last night and he's giving away a tin of Margate, and I'm like typing in the code to be entered, like put my name in the hat. I'm like betting virtual tins against Margate. I already have Margate. I've got like 2 tins of Margate that someone else gave me like 3 years ago that I've never opened. Being on a live stream with Martin is basically like reliving that 90s movie Hackers. You're just typing codes in all the time. You're just like exclamation point tins and hashtag Visco Girl and what, like, and then there's like some people type in things and sounds happen in the live stream. Some people type in things and Martin has to take a shot of whiskey, which, by the way, watching Martin get wasty-faced drunk on a live stream is pretty entertaining, I have to admit. So yeah, I try. The way that my wife and I do childcare is that I'm off duty every other Friday night. So I try to tune in, but then sometimes things don't, so Martin, that's why you only see me every now and then, but I do appreciate, sir, the little sound, the illiteracy sound bites. It's I don't know how you found those, since you can't read to do a search on the internet. So I know this isn't a live stream, but if you're watching this right now, I want you to go into the chat and exclamation point tins. Well, I don't tins maybe isn't the best for roll of film. Exclamation point roll of film, and I will drink a shot of my Sprite Zero here because I am an old fucking man and can't handle alcohol. I was watching Martin and I was like, Martin and I, we ought to get together after the pandemic is over. We should get together, get a couple of hotel rooms somewhere between here and there, because we're not very far from each other, and just get smashed on a live stream. And then I thought the headache that would ensue from being around Martin for drinking that much alcohol would just be unbearable. This is the Sunday Antisocial Hour, that time each week when I smoke my pipe and complain about humanity while generously answering all of its questions, unless YouTube flags them for review and then deletes them, or unless I don't want to. The reason I'm harping on Martin so much is because he's doing such a better job at this than I am. Martin found his YouTube stride during the pandemic, and I lost mine, is how I feel. This is my first pipe in however long it's been since the last time you guys saw me smoke a pipe. And I was talking to my wife about it this morning and just how disconnected I feel from all the community and from the hobby of pipe smoking itself. This is not something I want to brag about or make a big statement about, but I have received my first vaccination. I'm receiving my second one this week. So I'm going to relax a little bit, smoke a little bit more. Let's go ahead and start getting to your questions because Martin left one here. Ask Mr. Cooper. Thanks for jumping on the show. You're welcome. Anything I can do to lend credibility. What do you use to wipe down your lens and camera, and what do you do to maintain them? So I am terrible at this because I don't care about gear. I like gear insofar as it works to do the job that I want it to do. So I am not a lens polisher. I do keep some lint-free cloths around, less because I'm worried about my lenses being dirty, but more because I'm worried that a client will see that there's dust on my lens or something and think that's going to affect the image quality. Breaking news, it doesn't. It doesn't, like, unless you've got like a pile of sand on top of your lens, it's not going to show up in the image. What will show up in the image is any kind of fog or haze, or like if you've been eating chicken wings and you touch the glass, that would probably degrade the image quality. But a little speck of dust, no, it's fine. Some lens rental company that did a post on its blog, might have been, I think it was lensrentals.com, and it was comparing two photos, or sets of photos taken from a lens, like brand new mint condition lens, and the exact same lens that had something on the lens. And you could kind of see a tiny bit of contrast loss in these images. So you're scrolling down through these images and you're like, oh, that's definitely the one that's got something on the lens. And then you get to the bottom and they show you the lenses, and the one is brand new and the other one is just smashed to pieces. Like the glass is literally just spider webbed. It looks like someone has taken a piece of rebar and like directly hit the front of the front element of the lens. And that just kind of goes to show you how robust lenses are in terms of doing their actual rendering. Anyway, to answer your question, I really don't do anything. I wipe them down with a cloth every now and then. If I want to get fancy, like a deep clean is going, and then wiping it down. Of course, some of my cameras don't even have lenses. Joe Ditchett was asking about my pinhole camera and why I use a camera whose aperture is nominally f1.38. Why I use that at f2.50, and the reason is I'm talking about my pinhole camera. And for those of you that don't know, pinhole cameras have very, very tiny apertures called pinholes, and the aperture, the higher the number, the smaller the aperture. So like an f2 aperture is big, an f8 aperture is smaller. This is like normal lens apertures. On a pinhole camera, the lens has an aperture of like 100 and something or smaller. And the one I use technically has an aperture of f1.38, which requires really long shutter speeds to properly expose the film. That's the whole point. That's the magic of the camera. But then when you get into working with analog photography, you have to account for reciprocity failure in the way the film exposes. So I'm sure none of you will remember this because this is like a total deep dive nerd video, but I like, when I first got started, I did some testing and like using the actual reciprocity numbers for the exposures, because you gotta like raise the exposure time in seconds to a certain power, and it's different for every film and all that. Or you can do what Zeb Andrews taught me to do. Zeb Andrews is a famous pinhole photographer. He said just use f2.50, just overexpose 2 stops. And I did some testing, and basically overexposing 2 stops always came out to within 1 stop of the properly exposed exposure with the reciprocity factored in. And the camera only adjusts in full stops. You can only get settings for full stops, so what's the point? Now that I've lost everybody's attention, I'm smoking a Savinelli Capri Root Briar. And it is a shape 115. This was given to me by Amy Mack and is way more of a pipe than I deserve. But you know, I have quite a Savinelli collection going on now. I've got the Roma, the Friday Savinelli, and man, Martin played okay. Instead of the anti-social hour, this is going to be the Monday morning quarterbacking Martin hour. Martin played a very old Matches 860 video, which was really an emotional experience for me to watch. Like, I haven't watched Match's videos since he died, and I'm just not like, I've never been in the emotional space to want to sit down and process what happened. You know what I mean? So actually watching that video was like, because there's all the like Martin ridiculousness going on, and then there's Matches, and it was like one of his super old videos. And he looked positively like a young whippersnapper, and talking about the original Friday Savinelli. And I don't know why I got off on this tangent, but I have the Friday Savinelli. I have the Savinelli that Les Brady sent. I got this one that Amy Mack sent, and then I've got 2 that I bought on my own. I got a Savinelli, like I'm like a used car dealership of Savinellis that have been on them for sale. Can't buy them. I love them too much. And in this pipe, I am smoking Cordell & Deal's Black Frigate, which is, it's growing on me a little bit. You ever do that thing where like, you're like, this tobacco is okay, and then you reread the tin and you're like, oh, it's got rum in it. Cool. And now I can taste the rum. It's okay. It's pretty good. I've lately been hankering for some Haunted Bookshop though, and that was brought out again by the Matches video. Timber Drifter says about the my 4 waterfalls in a day video. This was sort of a hero's journey, a fat suburban wilderness hero's journey. Your words, not mine. Here in the Midwest, we prefer the words husky or hefty. Yeah, but like hefty wilderness hero hefty Suburban. Well, it doesn't have the same, I don't know. But mostly, just congratulations, Timber Drifter. Your comment did not get deleted by YouTube. Jimbo Packin commented on the fly time video. Thank you, sir. So Martin, again, when they say the camera adds 10 pounds, is that because the camera weighs 10 pounds along with all the equipment, or because of the lack of brown sugar Pop-Tarts in one's videos? Were you drunk when you left this question? This is why the camera adds 10 pounds. Actually, there's several reasons. Number one, we always look at ourselves in the mirror and we subconsciously pose ourselves to look our best when we look in the mirror. But when people are taking our picture with a camera, that doesn't happen, right? We don't have the subliminal biofeedback of like, oh, I'm looking in the mirror, I look like total shit. But if I do this, I look a little less like total shit. Right? Yeah, but you don't do that. You can't do that when someone's taking your picture. So when you look at the picture, you're like, oh my God. The other thing is, for the longest time, most people used point and shoot consumer cameras, from the 50s to the late 90s, actually to the 2000s. And those generally had fixed focal wide-angle lenses. Wide-angle lenses are not the best if you want to flatter someone. That's why that was, back in the day, that was one of the differences between an amateur photographer and a professional photographer, or at least an amateur camera and a professional camera, is that the focal length of the professional portrait lenses was much more flattering to the figure, meaning it doesn't make you look wider than it should. So that, I think that's where that comes. That's always been where I thought where that comes from. But I will say that my camera gear definitely weighs 10 pounds. It's all on the tripod. It's all on the tripod. I see all these analog photography videos of people yammering about, oh, this camera weighs, 25 grams less than that. Dude, if you're going to carry a tripod, it literally doesn't matter. You'll never feel the weight savings because you're carrying a giant piece of metal. Like, that's, the heavier the tripod is, the better it works. And the whole point is that it's big and heavy and stable, and just don't worry about the lightweight of the camera. Somebody also commented, who was it? Somebody commented on my Mamiya C330 video, saying that he takes his out in the woods and shoots it handheld all the time, and it's not a problem, because my conclusion on that video was that it was just not, it was not a woods camera. It's a studio camera, and man, I can't shoot that camera handheld to save my life. But the main thing is, the weight is a problem with that camera. It was truly heavy. But also, I feel like the rack and pinion focusing is fragile, and I never want to take it out in a way that could get it all banged up. Anyway, I just feel like this is like nerd question after nerd question, or at least I'm turning everything into a nerd question. Final question from Martin. If a gribbly falls in the woods, does it make a sound? Yes, and the sound is Norbo. Norbo is commenting from beyond the grave, and the chief point of his comment, I think, was just trolling, but there was also talking about the unfairness of life, because I was talking about my hand problems, and Norbo seems to be under the impression that I am somehow something of a musician. You know what? All right, pause. One reason I'm making this video today is because I just finished a giant music project for which I got paid. I made money with music, which has never ever happened before, actually, in spite of all of my, well, I mean, unless you count the working in a music store as making money with music, and in that case, I made like tens of dollars that decade that I worked in. Anyway, just a little bit bitter about that. So, right, I finished the project, but you can't see it because it's a secret project for somebody else's Patreon account. Sorry, I don't know why I'm really telling you. But now I have a little more time to make videos, which is why I'm sitting here behind the resolute desk in the Gribbly's Folly Community Garden and Massage Parlor, which I'm going to keep that name. We're going to keep that because the Max Cooper Asheville Community Garden, whatever, it just doesn't sound. I regret the name change, okay? All right, you got me to admit I regret it. So Norbo was saying that life is unfair because of all the good musicians that have had to basically quit playing because of hand problems or whatever. I just can't imagine actually being a good musician and having to deal with something like that. And then he talks about Jim Cook, which he says is one of the best pipe. He says the best pipe maker in the world. I bet Old Man Stanwell would disagree with that, but anyway, not being able to work as he would like. I knew a guy who was probably the most accomplished. What? What? You want to update? No, you can't update. Oh no, that's a comment. Hey. Okay, so the comment about the C330 came from Rupert Brun, and he just responded to a comment. So I'm going to answer Rupert. I'm going to answer that right now. No, I'm going to finish my point. What point was I making? What? I'm going to have to go back and find what point I was making. Okay, right. So the greatest Chet Atkins style guitar player that I have ever had the pleasure of knowing was this old guy that used to come into the music store, and he was friends with the owners of the store. And so he kind of had the free pass to just come in and just play with guitars. And he was an old guy, you know. I think he was probably a little bit lonely, and that's why he would come in and hang out and just play amazing guitar work every weekend. And a lot of the old guys were really annoying. He was not one of them. He was an awesome old guy. And he quit coming in when his hands got so arthritic that he couldn't play anymore. And he lived a lot longer than that. Which was even sadder. Like, it would have been totally fine if he had just come in to hang out, but I think he was really disappointed that he couldn't play like he wanted to. And then, you know, there was a while where he still tried, but you could tell he was so frustrated, you know. So yeah, being a musician and being an actual good musician and having a physical limitation like that would be terrible. This is going to be the most technical, nerdy, antisocial I think I've ever recorded. So Rupert asked me a question about getting my Zeiss Icon Netar to focus correctly, and I don't have the camera on me. It's up in the house. But he just happened to, while I was recording this, leave a comment. And I said, use a laser pointer from the focal plane, and he said, how does that work? So here's how this works. You take your camera, and it doesn't have to be a Zeiss Icon Netar. It could be any camera, although it doesn't really matter if the camera has a viewfinder, because then you just use the viewfinder to focus. But if you're using an old scale focus medium format folder or whatever, here's how I do it. You take the camera, put it on a tripod, you point it at a wall. You put the camera on bulb exposure and open the lens to the widest aperture all the way. You point it at a wall and you measure with a measuring tape how far away it is from the wall. Then you take a laser pointer and you shine it through the back of the camera and you turn the lens until the laser pointer focuses projected on the wall. So when it's out of focus, it'll be like an indistinct red blob or green blob or whatever the color of the laser pointer is. When it's in focus, it'll look just like a regular laser pointer. So then you take whatever, so let's say you're 6 feet from the wall, and if it lines up on the distance scale that your lens is focused at 6 feet, great. You're done. You don't have to do anything. If it lines up that you're focused at 5 feet, now you got a problem. And so then you either have to put some sort of marking tape around the distance scale of the lens and recalibrate. And so obviously you do this several times at different distances. And I recently did mine at 3, 6, and 9 feet. It was dead on. And then above that, it was way off. 12 feet was like 10 feet. It was off by a sizable percentage. Definitely off enough that it would ruin your photo. So, and I actually didn't have a laser pointer. So the other thing you can do is take if you don't have a laser pointer, you do it backwards. You put a bright light at a known distance from the camera, open the shutter, and it projects it onto the film plane. So you take an old piece of film that's transparent and put it on the film plane, and you focus it like a view camera, like ground glass. Get a loop or whatever. Ew. I've just got tobacco ash in my Sprite Zero. nothing ever works. So Rupert, I hope that helps. If anybody out there is interested, I will do a quick video on how I do that process, because I think I'm going to be getting a laser pointer for the cat anyway. Another Martin question. Do you feel the wondrous godlike forces of science propelled you into the swamp due to your lack of wearing a mask, much less two, and complete disregard of social distancing? No, I don't understand. No. I double mask in the grocery store. I double mask anytime I'm going to be around a lot of people. And by double mask, I mean I wear a terrible looking N95 respirator. I know somebody's gonna come back on that. I did the research and found whichever one was the correct one to wear, and then I wear a neck tube over that so it doesn't look so bad. But I was totally social distancing in that video. There was no one else wallowing in that swamp with me. I was completely alone. Completely alone. And we finally answer some questions from someone else. All right, Howard asked Max, any signs of life in the wedding photography business? Also, if twisted and dark, macabre jokes make you giggle, it could be a sign that you're smarter than the average person. Great. Great. Well, that's, do I have any dark humor jokes? Do I have any dark humor? All right, so let's first answer your question. Yeah, there is quite a bit of life coming back to the wedding industry next year. I think people, the way my experience, my lived experience, is that everybody kept trying to hold out through like summer 2020. They kept trying to have their weddings, and then they realized it's just not going to happen. So then they canceled, and of course they're not going to plan a wedding within a year of that. So most of the weddings I'm booking now are for 2022, and it's people who would have gotten married last year or this year but didn't. So I do think this year is still going to be pretty dead, because who would have, we're almost to peak wedding season, which is mid-April to late October. Who would have planned a wedding for this time? Because you would have had to have been starting your planning in like November, December at the absolute latest. So that was the worst time ever for the pandemic. And, there was like a 17% jump in cases last week. So I definitely want to be on the like optimistic train of like, hey, this pandemic is winding down and everybody's getting vaccinated and herd immunity and all that. But I think we don't really know that. I think to trust that is folly. So I don't know. I'm very much hoping that my 2022 weddings will not get canceled, and I don't think they will. I think we're going to be okay, but we'll just have to wait and see. Blake 1827. Oh wait, dark humor jokes. Let me think on that. Nothing I want to tell. There's of course plenty of dark, but I that's a situation. Those jokes are very situationally dependent, right? And this is a broadcast. This is going out to a wide and varied audience. There's probably little old ladies watching, and I don't want to offend anybody. However, there's my favorite fishing joke is this new fisherman is trying to learn how to fish, and so he's like looking for a spot on the river, and he like looks in this hole from the road, and he sees this real old guy out there fly fishing, and so he decides he's going to go chat this guy up and see what he can learn. So he's standing there in the river. They fish all day, and the guy's like teaching him all kinds of fishing wisdom, and then they're fishing under a bridge, and at about 3 in the afternoon, they've been fishing since dawn. At about 3 in the afternoon, a funeral procession goes over the bridge, and the old guy reels in and puts his rod down, takes his hat off, and stands there in silence as the funeral procession is going over the bridge. And the young guy says, "Wow, old man, that's really nice of you to show that kind of respect." And the old guy says, "Well, that's the least I can do. We were married for 60 years. Blake 1827 asks Max, are church wardens the impractical equivalent of a chopper motorcycle? I think so. I think that's a pretty good, with like the ape hangers, I think that's a pretty good analogy. I've never owned a church warden, so maybe I'm really missing out, but I mean, even this is too big for anything other than sitting at a desk, you know, and it's very lightweight. Well, super light, actually, but it's just big. So I've never owned a church warden and never really had the desire, except for the Cobbett church wardens. I thought would be pretty cool. I bet they'd smoke really well, but it's pretty rare that I have time to sit down and smoke a pipe at a table. David 35445 is again asking me about a catch and cook video. Today is the first day of trout season. I should be out there getting COVID from all the other. We just won't talk about that. I am completely unconcerned about the first day of trout fishing because there's so many worm drowning, meat slinging mud hogs out there. I can't stand it. We've talked about this in the past. I will wait till tomorrow. And at which point I will probably catch and cook some fish. So I will put this video idea higher on the list. I've got lots of videos coming out. It's such a process, and I'm working on it. It would be a lot faster if I didn't have to wait for the film to get developed, to be developed for me to. It would be a lot faster if I didn't have to wait for myself to actually get off my ass and do some work. The Collapse Experiment sent me a link to Sutliff's Rum and Maple, saying that this might be close to a brown sugar Pop-Tart. Combining the sweet flavor of maple with the subtle yet distinctive tones of rum, ribbon-cut aromatic, offering the nutty, earthy tones of burley paired to the clean, high notes of Virginia for a satisfyingly complex smoke. No, it's not. No, sorry, it says Sutliff. It's not. I'm such a snob, but man, I started out smoking. I was thinking about this the other day. I started out smoking Sutliff's spiced rum. That was my first. Actually, my first tobacco was Old Limey Bastard, and I was like, I can't do this. So I got some spiced rum from Sutliff, and I really liked it at the time. And I have since gone back and tried it again, and it's terrible. I don't know what it is in the psychology of a pipe smoker. I would love to have like a Pavlovian study of what we go through in our pipe smoking journeys, because the noob tobaccos versus the experienced tobaccos, it's just not even the same thing. Anyway. Collapse Experiment also asks, what program are you using to record audio? And I'm not sure, because this was 2 weeks ago and I'm a terrible YouTuber. I'm not sure what he's referring to, but I just use my camera audio on my phone when I'm doing these videos. When I'm doing slightly higher production quality videos, I still just use the audio on my camera. If I'm recording anything else, I use Reaper audio. So that's like if I'm doing guitar tracks or something like that. Blake 1827 asks, would you rather have 4 more years of pandemic or Tucker Carlson as president? At least with the pandemic, the worst that can happen is you'll die. A final one from, well, I've said final 3 times now. Another question from Martin. This is from 4 weeks ago. Did I not answer it? Should illegal immigrants be allowed into the United States while testing positive for COVID-19, or are we just following the science stating they're naturally something? Basically, it's an illegal immigrant question. Everybody loves these. And should we be cracking down because of COVID? Sure. Yeah. I mean, you know that's one of the reasons that you have borders, is to stop diseases from coming into your country, and we see how well that's worked all over the world. Joe Biden better man the fuck up if he wants my vote in 4 years, and do something about. I mean, he put Harris on it about the border situation. I don't know about let them into the country, but humane treatment is kind of integral to democracy, I think, and it's really You know, I knew he wasn't going to bring the troops home from Afghanistan. I knew he wasn't going to do basically anything that actually needed to get done, including that. Like they're now like interrogating White House staffers about past use of marijuana. Like, really? Is this Joe? I know you're old and all, and I know you're from a certain generation, as we like to say here in the South when someone is a racist fuck, but they're old. Oh, well, in his time, that was an appropriate thing to say. Whatever. I'm not saying he's a racist, but I am saying, can't we just get over the marijuana thing in this country? Like, can we please just get over the marijuana thing and move on to things that actually matter? I understand if you got your White House staffers doing meth off the tables in the White House, then that's probably not ideal. That's suboptimal, but the fact that a White House staffer once used marijuana, they're also, or was this an April Fool's thing? You know, I was actually going to start the video with this, but the best April Fool's joke I've seen yet is the news story about Russian armor massing on the Ukrainian border. That is hilarious. But they're playing it a little too hard. Like the story's still going on, and it's like April 4th now. I don't know why they're still running it. Not to bring the mood down, but Bound Mystic, I really appreciate your comments about having an autistic child during COVID and dealing with all the anyway. That ends the video on a little bit of a somber note there. Life is multifaceted. You know, on one hand, you got silliness and brown sugar Pop-Tarts. And on the other hand, you got people being mistreated by ICE in the border camps and whatever. So, what do? We just, I don't know what to do. That's it for today. Stay tuned. We got at least 2 adventure videos in the hopper already, just waiting on the film. And go buy a print. Just send me money if you want to. That's fine too. I mean, just make it easy. Follow me on Instagram at MaxCooperAVL. I'm getting to the point where I'm gonna actually start saying like and subscribe, non-ironically, and that's when I'll know that that's when I know I need to hang it up. That's it. That's all. Stay safe. Enjoy the spring. Happy Easter if that's your thing. Till next time, keep the ends out for the ties that bind.